Rabbi Mullet, how you doing? Garth, who's getting married in 11 days? 12 days? It's not late night. It's only 8 p.m. Well, Baruch Hashem, you, this cold won't, this cough hasn't been going away, but other than that, I'm doing well. $11 and counting, which means I should probably actually start looking at my plans and stuff. Let's see. My flight is on Wednesday. And I'm flying back on Sunday night at 7. I got an Airbnb. Where is that Airbnb, you might ask? I don't know. Let me check. It is near the 94 and 65, not far from North Central University and Ventura Village. I'm flying in Thursday morning, so I'm taking a red eye. So I'm gonna be there Thursday morning. I got a room Thursday night because I had to be there by Friday. So the only thing I haven't done is I don't remember if I got when I got my airplane tickets. Don't know if I no, that's not airplane. Don't know if I actually got a checked bag or not. Ethiopian restaurant Saturday night. Yes, Hava uh, mentioned that. Thank you. It will be nice to see everyone. Uh, baggage information. Looks like I don't need to reserve baggage early. They are going to charge me, but everybody charges nowadays. When did they rebook my flight? My flight is leaving 10 minutes later on Wednesday than it was. How long ago did they change this? Oh, they changed this back in August. Um, and it's returning 40 minutes later. Okay. It is what it is. Nine-digit Eric. How you doing?
You know, oh, yeah, that's me.
That is you. Yeah.
Well, you know what I should probably do is turn off the YouTube.
Probably.
Let's see if that works.
Does it?
Uh, Hopefully, it's not
Yay.
echoing as much. What are you up to? It looks like you're just sitting there.
I was just sitting here. Nobody wanted to talk to me.
What'd you say this time?
Nothing yet. Nothing yet. People are sitting in the chat discussing Persian for some reason. I don't know. How have you been? Looks like Eric got frozen. Eric? I don't know, folks. He looks frozen to me. Shadow was in her little cradle. Where is Shadow? I think Eric's back.
Did I disappear?
You did disappear. You froze for a little while and then you disappeared.
Oh, I thought you froze. I went to the yeah. Anyway, yeah. No, I was just curious to see what you said that scared everybody away or ticked everybody off to where they didn't want to talk to you.
Nothing that I know.
Lately, tonight.
Lately. Why? What have you heard? It's all lies.
Oh no, I haven't heard anything. I've been trying not to pay attention too many.
Mm. What
Every
have you
now and
been
then, you working,
working?
working, and looking at election stuff and
Yeah,
voting.
the election stuff. Like, I was hoping people would want to talk about the election.
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure what can be said at this point.
Um,
Uh,
I
it's always
am.
interesting, thinking of.
I am pretty sure it. Like, it looks like Trump's going to win, even the popular vote. I don't. I don't think it's going to be close. Did we lose Eric again? I think we lost Eric again. Why do we keep on losing Eric? I blame the Jews.
Is this any better?
Eric, you're back.
Yes. I keep on dropping on you.
You do. Why?
Um, I assume it has something to do with some faulty Wi-Fi, and I haven't switched out an access point yet that I need to. That might help resolve that slightly.
That
But
sounds like a lot more information than I have about that type of stuff.
has to be. No, it's yeah, it's all good. Um, what was I going to say? Something you were asking about the election stuff. Oh, I was watching a video about just polling data and projections from past years, current early voting turnouts, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it just always strikes me as very interesting how all that weaves in and out, and how polling data is a shaping tool. But
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not easy to actually poll people.
right,
And the really high quality polls, the polls that are done inside the campaigns are not shared publicly. It's
Sure.
so, but it looks from all indications that Trump's going to win in a landslide. I think
We'll see.
we will. We will.
I mean, there's a lot of people that have been doing some fortification for safe and secure elections. So
Yeah. Um,
I just, one of the things that always bugs me whenever I go do the voting and stuff like that is just, I'm like, I guess on some level, it makes sense to have everybody turn off their cell phones. I'm sure I've complained about this before, but the whole don't record what's going on to where people can, you know, notice weird things maybe. Like what? Yeah.
I mean, it's weird that, like, for example, in California, everybody gets a mail-in ballot, which, frankly, like that, that kind of gets rid of the possibility. Like, it used to be everybody had to come in to vote because there was the voting booth, and
Mhm.
nobody could see your ballot between the voting when you voted. Like, taking pictures of your ballot in the
Mhm.
in the voting booth was
Yeah.
technically illegal for that reason, right?
Really.
Yeah, because so nobody could, like, pay you for your vote. Nobody could verify you were voting, right?
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but nowadays, like, you're if like the Harris campaign has been saying, yeah, you can vote and your husband will never know how you voted.
Oh, right. Yeah, I saw that.
And it's kind of like, well, says who? Now with all these um take home ballots and stuff,
Hmm.
you kind of don't have that anymore, right?
Right.
So, like, you
Yeah.
should be talking about in-person voting if that's what you want, actual secret ballot.
Right. Yeah. There's a certain level of talking out of both sides of their mouths that's so frequent at this point that yeah.
Yeah. Which is why, for me, it's been really significant, the number of newspapers that aren't endorsing
Oh,
Kamala
right.
Harris. Like,
Interesting.
that's shocking.
I mean, it probably should be shocking it started becoming a thing in the first place, but yeah, the fact that it's being corrected in any ways.
Yeah, and everyone expecting, oh well, obviously they couldn't possibly, you know, um, endorse the Republican candidate. Like,
Oh
how
heavens,
could?
no.
Yeah.
That would be an endorsement against democracy,
Yeah,
obviously.
obvious.
Because well, another thing that they've said for a while, but it's becoming more and more obvious every passing election cycle or whatever. When they separate the demographics by college educated, as far as a voting block, and like, okay, so these are your indoctrinaires that have fully absorbed, or are more likely to have fully absorbed an entire cult mentality that can exist only within the vacuum and bubble of collegiate campuses. And yeah,
No, don't you understand, Eric? It's just because these people are smarter that they all have the exact same politics.
right. Well, I mean, that's what most smart people do, is go 60 to $120,000 in debt before they even had a real job. I mean, that's
Hey,
definitely
stop
not. That,
attacking me.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. I, I know that everybody gets a very valuable engineering degree that is put to full use, and it's not English studies or whatever else.
See, I thought I was studying useful stuff. Like
Oh, I,
I went and I got a law degree, right? And like
I
I'm
mean, that does sound like it should be useful, assuming
yeah
people actually follow the law.
yeah
And
that's
that the law's enforced as opposed to selectively just banked against you so they could selectively enforce it at will as a political pressure point, like Kamala has openly admitted to. Whatever. It's fine.
yeah yeah. You live in Texas, right?
I do.
So like I mean, there's no way Texas is going blue. So
One would hope. I mean, with, yeah, the present, yeah, with all things being considered right now, I will say that in my interactions with folks in Austin and Houston, San Antonio, to some extent Dallas, but I mean, with all the university towns and stuff like that, and again, people kind of, here's the thing, a lot of people are being taken advantage of for assuming the best, and communists do not care. They don't care. They will absolutely run roughshod over all the people that are trying to act in good faith and assume the best. And there are a lot of, not all, obviously, Texas has its own tumultuous little history, but um, yeah, there are, especially in those urban centers, there are just tons of activists.
did
Um,
you see Christianity Today ran an article talking about how Christians shouldn't vote?
I did read a blurb about that. I don't know if I actually, I didn't read it, but I did see that there was a blurb about it.
I
I
read
mean,
it. It
it's
was
par for the course.
yeah. Why
I
is that
don't,
par for the course? How is that par for the course? Like
well, because they've been not actually functioning. It's kind of, I feel like it's kind of like the UN where it was set, basically anything that consolidates power and uses institutions and councils is inherently a little leftist bent, it seems like. Or it just tends to be corrupted because people, do the corrupting thing. Um, but no, I mean, Christian, I mean, it's one of those things where, and part of the reason why I have, yeah. Anyway, I'm cautious of people that attempt to harness and wield something that they are supposed to, they're not supposed to wield. Let's put it that way. And so, putting together a magazine that goes out to all the different churches and stuff like that has a good name. Well, all of a sudden, all that means is that you've painted a target on your back. People that want to subvert that whole block, all they need to do is now grab that one little, um, pressure point and, steer the ship. And so I'm sure this has been happening for decades, and it's just, incrementally the Overton window, yada yada yada. So um, anyway, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's just one of those things where if you take advantage of people's laziness, you consolidate and say, "Oh, well, this is the place to get all of this." You go there, boom. It it's it foments, it fosters, it grows laziness. People just defer to it and like, oh, they must know what they're talking about. They must, again, they just anything that does not exercise as many people as are willing to do it. I feel like it's prime prime territory for yeah, for abuse.
did you read that Meg Basham book or follow the controversy at all?
I did. I started it and I have not finished it. Partially because the stupid controversy took half my time just reading all that junk. So
Yeah, I
um,
read all the controversy stuff. I didn't actually read the book. I'm not sure.
I,
Yeah.
the book seems mild, and I mean I say mild. I mean it's I don't know. I do I do not appreciate how I don't appreciate how much of a lot of these things, there's just campaign after campaign that's basically PR management of various scandals and stuff like that. You know, real and then sometimes, you know, yeah, basically detangling all the conflicting psyops that various sides are doing and think they're legitimizing doing, and sometimes with good intentions, sometimes probably with not, sometimes just misunderstood. It's a full-time occupation that nobody has time for, which might be probably is half the point half the time. So, but all that to say, I will say that again, it's one of those things. It doesn't matter if it's Baptists or Catholics or whoever. Um, the university professors, climate scientists that are completely in agreement, um, magically. Um, yeah, they're you wind up consolidating power. That's the issue. Is like you cannot tempt people that without rigorous defense, and so hopefully enough people have realized that they've been abused that they will do a very um, level-headed and lawful repudiation of those that are abusing the system. Because I mean, that's the funny thing about a lot of the complaints that people have. A good deal of the time, it's not necessarily the system itself; it's the actual execution of the tasks of the system that is done in bad faith or poorly by the officers in those positions. It's not necessarily what they're supposed to do; they're just not doing what they're supposed to do, but they have the authority to do it. And actually, holding people accountable tends to be very difficult because of the complexity and or the access. And I think that's why the control of information is such a huge issue, is because ultimately, if things are simple enough for most people to understand, if you know they're beholden to a law, and ultimately, if people don't have too much obfuscation in the way, they can determine for themselves. They don't need to rely on the expert class and everything else. So, you know, there's a whole lot of vested interest in making things as stupid as possible. Sorry, as complex as possible and inscrutable as possible. And it's very frustrating. But
You're not cynical at all.
I'm not cynical. I I would like to think of myself as a realist who thinks that people can choose the best, but 98% of the time lean the other way.
Okay.
I shouldn't say 98%. I think, people are people. Even when we want to do the right thing, half the time we do the stupid thing.
People are indeed people. I will agree with that.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully, but definitionally, although sometimes definitional debates go sideways themselves because it
And some
pays.
people, you kind of wonder, are they really people?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would not be surprised if that's. I'd be surprised if that wouldn't classify as a. And a lot of people in the corner have talked about it, but you know, with the discussion of what spirit is and all that sort of thing. But it's absolutely a form of possession. Like, are you being possessed by a spirit of aggression, or are you understanding, or dare I say love, even for your enemies? Perhaps, of course, loving your enemies often it can very well can in some cases does mean just absolute refutation because it's a path of destruction. So it's not just being nice to me. I want to give you a hug. It's like, Russ, stop trying to shoot me.
See, you don't understand Jesus. Jesus was really nice to everybody. Nobody ever got mad at Jesus. Nobody ever wanted to kill Jesus. He was just a nice guy, winsome
Yeah,
all the
that,
time.
but yeah, for 100%, 100% Winston.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you win some, you lose some, but
I actually call win some, lose some.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think what frustrate part of the reason I'm as invested in talking about that sort of stuff and getting as much of an opinion as I have right at this point is that I've definitely run that course in a number of different places, and you know, you develop relationships, but the relationships are on terms that are not fully fleshed out, um, and they don't necessarily push people. I mean, yeah, I think, at least from, and I know you would not fully agree with this, but I know from the Christian perspective, like you being willing to hold to principles, knowing that death is not the worst thing that could happen as a result of holding to those principles. Um,
I agree with that.
yeah, there's some value in that. So yes, but
Yeah, I
often
agree.
what I think about, well, especially with some of the political issues, is that okay, yes, I can have that confidence. Fantastic, that's great. Except I know that other people don't, and I think that other people should have rights to some degree to preserve life, ideally, that included defensive measures. Um, but yeah, I don't think that I don't think that it's a good idea for. I mean, it's the American founding principle, the tyranny of the few, the tyranny of the many. I think you want to have just the right amount of tyranny that eliminates all the other tyrannies.
Just the right amount of tyranny. Okay.
but
What Eric,
but
you're going
well,
to be known as just right amount of tyranny, Eric.
oh, sweet Georgia Brown. Okay, no, no. I mean, just basically basically the only tyranny would be that of responsible liberty. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, I think that's part of the issue is that, how we talk about framing, or we used to talk more about framing and stuff like that. Part of the issue is that we are very, and you have to, it's a very delicate thing because essentially what you have to, I think, rest on is that you can't let any person or group that does not have the righteous authority, which is all people basically, have tyranny, which is why the deference to God is so important. Like you cannot think that you are God because that will, or think that there's no God to hold you like that. That's just a recipe for people doing whatever they want, um, to their own destruction as well as many other people. And so basically, and I say tyranny, I mean like there is actually true authority. It's the people that adopt authority or exercise it improperly, not righteously, not justly, not caringly and lovingly. That's you know that's the problem. We are we have a people are a great failure to execute machines, and I mean execute tasks properly, not.
Although people can also fail to execute other
Oh,
people.
that's true. Yeah, yeah. That's yeah. Anyway, I don't know. It's just in general. I feel like the founders did a pretty good job of trying to um, disperse those sorts of powers, and people have been doing from all over the world have both appreciated that and then tried to co-opt it for the remainder of the time. I feel like they're
I
yeah.
really wonder how much China and Russia and other countries have been able to influence our politics without our recognition.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for example, I was watching a video also this evening actually about the size of intercontinental ballistic missiles and various other things that various countries have. And, they stacked each one, per scale, and modeled all out, the blast radius, the size of the actual missile, the number of warheads, whatever, all that sort of stuff. And of course, they kept on going scale up, scale up, scale up, and they had, I can't remember which countries now, but they included the U.S. and they would target someplace like, uh, I don't know, I think they took out a city in China in one of the examples. They took out a city in Russia in one of the examples. They took out. well, when as they got progressively larger, they just switched over to the U.S. and basically left with Russia having the two tallest, biggest intercontinental, Satan II and Satan III or something like that. Um, and anyway, but things like that are just like low key digs that are saying, scale wise and basically trying to implant in people's heads that, well, this is ridiculous. These people are, whatever, this. I think there's a lot of subtle landscape shit. Like you don't think about it in war, but the logistics operations are half the battle. You don't think about it during war, but land shaping and engineering and stuff like that, where you're preparing bases and docks and landing pads and all these sorts of things. And like there's a whole lot of very non-glamorous, not what you would think of parts of war that are rolled out, the economics, everything else. And I think there's a lot of that sort of groundwork happening psychologically. Obviously, the demoralization, the just sowing uncertainty, all that sort of stuff. I'm sure is. I don't think that's even necessarily just the states, our typical enemy states that we think of. But there's people with very committed, deep ideologies around the world that yeah, they're playing too. They're playing.
If China decided to cut us off, I wonder what would happen.
It's a good question. It's a good question. I mean, I know that I think the people that would, I don't want to say that because like you think of cities and stuff like that, and there's a number of folks that in some of the the Rust Belt and places that were historically factory towns and stuff like that. I can imagine that there's maybe still enough people that know how to produce things that they could pick up the slack, but who knows? Maybe there's a shadow industry. Maybe the whole point is to, I don't know.
Shane,
I think that technically we're capable.
Hey.
Long time no see. How have you been?
Good. I jumped on with Cassidy earlier today, so then I saw you were live, and I was like, might as well run the gamut.
I see you've gone Eastern Orthodox on us.
Yeah, I have. I've been a catechumen for like a year, but hey, if it wasn't for all that other stuff, I did, my friends are the reason I'm alive at all. So life is the value. Orthodoxy just happens to be life. So
where are you living these days?
I'm in Oakdale.
Oakdale.
Yeah. Oakdale, California.
That's is that the monastery that was near you when you were living in like Fresno or something?
No, well, I was in Lodi because I had after we were met in person in Oregon, and then from there I was like I went to Georgia with my uncle, and then I came back here to Oakdale, and I was here in Oakdale for a minute, and then I just wasn't mentally well, so everyone was like, "You can't live with us." So then I ended up homeless, and I met my spiritual father, and then things got better. So now I'm in Oakdale, but the monastery is in Platina, and that's like 3 hours from here.
Okay.
Yeah. So
have you been stable for a while?
Yeah, I've been working, and I got a car now. So I've been like going like 4 months strong. Everything just works, everything. God is good.
God is good.
Yeah.
Definitionally.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have my glasses. I was like, I wonder if I should be able to see better, but I can hear you guys' voices. It's all good.
I'm
Yeah,
hideous.
yeah.
Don't look at me.
Huh? Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
are you actually like? Are you thinking of going into the monastic life?
Yeah, I have my spiritual father's blessing to pursue monasticism once I'm baptized.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'm going to be baptized in April at Orthodox Easter.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a service, a Vesper service that they do or a vigil service where everything's dark and with the candles lit, and then at midnight you turn on the lights, Christ is risen, and then he baptizes everyone. So
Nice.
yeah.
Which patriarchate?
This is the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia.
Ah, Rokor.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
Rokor is hardcore.
Yeah. It's very good. I don't think that as far like it, or it's all God's family, but like Rokor is like the Bronx kids, right? Of Orthodoxy. It's yeah. I went to Platina, and there's just like little like it's like and then my spiritual father, he's pretty down with all the podcast stuff. Like he watches Lord, he listens to Lord of Spirits and Father Turbo Quails, and they've met. And then like we went to the monastery in Platina the first time for a missions trip.
Yeah.
I was just walking around, and then my priest, my spiritual father, he was like, "Look right there," and the abbot has a cross on it, and the cross was carved by Jonathan Pajot. And I was like, "Oh, I'm still this like, you know, this is still. It's just the wider circle. Everyone's just one person removed from God. So
Cool. Are you living by yourself, or you're living?
No. So, when I left Monterey and went to school, and then was engaged for a little while, my sister and my brother moved to Oakdale, and so they're on the lease, but I'm staying with them right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, you said Monterey, and I was thinking of Frank Sinatra.
Oh, okay. How are you, Eric?
In Monterey, in old Mexico. Anyway, I'm done. I'm good-ish.
Yeah.
As most people, I suspect.
Well, yeah.
Well, some worse than others.
Yeah. But it's awesome. There's the yeah, it's just crazy how God can redeem you, and then like you find things out about your yeah, I was talking to Cassie today because somebody was like, how'd you choose your patron saint? And it's like, Jacob, the amount of things, because so you would be, and I've been thinking about, and I don't think this is, well, it's orthodox to think of, I don't know if it's fully orthodox to think this way, but an Orthodox Christian told me that basically the universe is God's cosmic church. Like you have your local parish, and then the universe is God's cosmic church. And then I've been meeting people, right, with like Christian names like Raphael, the archangel, and then like Jacob, and I'm like, oh, so these would you identify them as the people that they're speaking of biblically, just in God's cosmic church? Because in the church you recognize people by their like patron saint. So there's things like I imagine if you look into like Jacob, you'll actually find parallels in. That's what happened when I chose Athanasius as a patron saint, is like just things in common with him. There was one in particular where I was like, oh, that's wild. Oh, he was made rich through, there's a thing, he was made rich through his poverty. And I'm like, oh, I had to be poverty stricken to become rich. Like in the spiritual sense. I need to stop saying like and I've been noticing that.
You are a California boy.
Yeah, I understand that, and I understand there's probably an aesthetic value, but I'm more interested, even though I'm a California boy. Like I it's very hard on my social life not saying dude, trying not to say dude because that's or bro because those are the things that everyone says.
Mm.
But hey, so are you. I don't know if you're not originally from California. I don't think.
I was born in Iran, but I've been living here since I was 7.
Oh yeah, Iran's been in the news too. Huh?
Who's been in the news?
Iran,
Oh, oh,
not for good things,
right.
unfortunately.
Yeah, they ran out of oil, so
Well,
they're out of good things.
I think
I'm horrible.
a little bit, but that's okay. I mean,
Who's that? We were just talking about that.
yeah, it's
Mm.
okay.
Yeah.
But what was I trying to say? I don't know. But for some reason, and I think I gotta be focused. I'm trying to do some work stuff at the same time. This is not a good idea. But I don't know why my resistance. I have a little bit of something in the back of my head kind of draws a correlation between something like the Enneagram and patron saints and things like that. It's kind of a medieval iconographic personality profile.
Right.
But
Yes.
I was listening to Lord of Spirits, and Father Stephen mentioned me,
Mhm.
and they started talking about Gamaliel, I guess is how most people pronounce it.
Mhm.
okay,
And Father Damick was like, "Why don't more people name their kids Gamaliel?" Like, yeah, I agree. More people should name their kids Gamaliel.
I mean, I could see them shortening it to Gamma and that catching on.
Right.
Well, I mean, Gamliel is actually a pretty popular name in Orthodox Jewish circles. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Mm.
I can't say that I've hung out in them very often.
In Orthodox Jewish circles?
Yeah,
Oh.
just hasn't been my corner of the world a lot of the time. Lots of corners of the world, but I think the closest I came was when I was in visiting New York a couple times. Wound up going to the B&H store up there. Have you been up that way?
Where?
The B&H photo video store.
Oh,
It's a big
in
old,
New York? Yeah, I've
yeah.
not been there.
Okay. But yeah, that was one of those things that I was asking about some vertical grips for camera, and was talking to a guy. I think his name was Ezekiel. I'm like, man, no, there's oh geez,
Yeah,
there's
it's
a very
owned
not
by Hasidim. B&H is owned
yeah
by Orthodox
right
Jewish.
because they don't accept online orders on Saturday, yada yada.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a whole thing. But
And Don Gamliel, so Gamal means to do something good, and Gamaliel means God did something good for me.
Mm.
Yeah.
that is a good name.
That's awesome.
It does not roll off the tongue for most of. I guess it does sort of. It's a little more rolly with a little bit of tumble.
Is it easier than Colonymus?
Colonymus
Yeah.
Bot?
Colonymus is
Was that
Cal's
Hieronymus?
full name.
No, that's Hieronymus.
Yeah.
Oh, from Full Metal Alchemist?
Yes, that's probably. Well, is it? I can't remember.
Wait, are you guys talking about the name Hieronymus Bosch?
No.
Well, that's what you.
Well,
Okay.
he's
Yeah.
Hieronymus Bosch, but I was thinking of Hieronymus is the Full Metal Alchemist father.
Yeah, I don't watch enough anime. That needs to go on my. I need a better palate for anime. My buddy from church was talking about how he was like not irritated, maybe a little bit, but he was like the Japanese have a better grasp on white culture than white people do, and he used Full Metal Alchemist as an example.
Well, I think a lot of people take it more seriously and they actually read the key influencers because they're trying to understand the culture, and the people that are living in the culture just live it. It's all just practice as opposed to understanding, and it's taken like many things that are good. They work so well they're taken for granted, and then they get lost. And weak men make hard times. Anyway, but oh gosh.
That's how you spell Colonimus.
Colonimus.
Oh, the more Greek inspired.
It is originally a Greek name, but it is also very popular Hasidic name because the Colonimus family was a very prominent early rabbinic family, like from hundreds of years ago.
Okay. I learned something today. More things today.
You should learn something every day.
You know what? I'm going to read, Jacob, because I pretty much decided like I had read enough, I want to show you. It's basically, so do you know who Eric Neumann is?
Sounds really familiar.
So Eric Neumann is the, Jung designated him as the person to carry on Jungian psychology after he left.
Right. It was his student. Yeah.
Yes, it was a student, and where everyone else was kind of, I think I got the sense that he thought everyone else was super arrogant, so he just gave Eric Neumann he's like, Lord have mercy. He's like the Peter of Jungian psychology. And
that more like a Paul. I'm joking.
Well, wait. So I've because Peter was the one that the rock of the church, right?
Well, you're Eastern Orthodox, so you're not supposed to say that.
Well, I mean, I just think that the Pope got the idea of the papacy. The papacy got twisted with whoever the Roman areas, the hierarchs were. Like, I don't think that.
You mean Constantine?
Was it Constantine who?
I'm joking.
Oh no! Well, hey, Constantine. So Constantine, he was made a saint, and it's funny because he was contemporaries with Saint Athanasius. And I don't know if you know, but Athanasius, he didn't like Athanasius very much at all. And then, like, he wanted to get a hearing with Constantine. So he hid in the bushes and waited for him to ride by where he knew he was going to go. And Athanasius jumped out of the bushes, grabbed Constantine's horse by the reins and wouldn't let him go until he had himself heard. And Constantine liked him even less after that, but they both became saints. They were both... God was wonderful in both of them. So, and it is.
I'm not a huge fan of Constantine. I don't know that much about Athanasius.
Yeah. No, because he wasn't even like well known when he was around. He just outlived all his enemies and kept to the faith. There was a possibility that the only person on earth for a time that was still interested in Jesus Christ, like might have been Athanasius. Would, as a Christian, it's like, would you be, his example is basically, would you still be interested in Christ when nobody else if nobody else were to be interested in Jesus Christ, would you be still interested in him? And he wasn't. And like I was reading, basically this really good biographer wrote like an excerpt on him. Aside from writing about like Stalin and Mao, he wrote about Athanasius, and he was like, he wasn't super deep, and some people wrote better than him in other senses, but nobody had fewer doubts than this guy. And he was just, I think he's awesome. I've been like obsessed with reading about him since me and my spiritual father decided that he was going to be my patron saint.
Have you been reading his Athanasius wrote stuff, right?
Yeah, so I read on the Incarnation back when I was still like more active in Bridges meeting like 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I remember I was like, wow, this is the best thing I've ever written or read. Wow, Athanasius Shush. This is the best thing I've ever read. But Shane is still, I can still use Shane because Shane is a Anglicization of Sean, which is John. But it's the best thing I had read because it was like very, I don't know. I just thought it was the most edifying thing I had ever read. Wow, Shane. I keep almost saying read. The most. Oh my Lord!
You're really identifying with Athanasius.
Oh, I guess better to identify with the hero than the villain. But, geez. So
it's funny you should mention that. Actually,
go ahead. I need to not be so.
No, you're fine. You're fine. No, the reason that provokes something is that I was just, and every now and then I'm having these spells of thinking about how a lot of times people read scriptures and identify with who they perceive to be heroes.
Right.
And so often, I think one of the most interesting things is how much we are more often embodying the weaknesses of those people in the stories. Mm-hmm. And I mean, really, you think like King David, David before he was king, but you think of David, you think of Solomon, Samson, all these people. All of those guys fell into sexual sin, violence of various sorts. Just a whole slew of things where it's all the stories are people that do, like, even at the highest heights, take a dive, but their redeeming quality is humility before the Creator God. And to the extent that they actually submit to who actually owns the whole world, even if they feel like they own it for a few years.
Yeah.
Or have been given authority, lent authority, not owned.
Amen.
But
Amen.
There's so many things that are just like, okay, I think sometimes, as much as it's good to recognize what they did right, or things that are exciting as far as victories, things that they did that helped more than hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times, I was thinking about actually trying to write a song or something about just identifying with seeing all the faults that I see in those heroes that I have also embodied. Anyway, just thoughts.
Yeah.
You reminded me of something. So I saw this from Vadi Bakum. The wisest man in the Bible fell into sexual sin.
Oh, yeah.
The strongest man in the Bible fell to sexual sin. And the godliest man in the Bible fell to sexual sin. For me to think I'm above falling into this sin is to think that I am wiser than Solomon, stronger than Samson, and godlier than King David. Vadi Bakum.
And then the punchline, well, what do you think about Jesus then?
No, my punchline was, glad to see Jesus isn't in his Bible.
Right? Lord.
Yeah, this is why nobody's talking to you, Jacob.
Well, that's okay. So I actually the reason Okay, yeah. We'll let that one. We'll chew on that one for a minute. That's hilarious. Oh,
the semantics of it got him. I mean, and that's the tricky thing. Even people that are very learned and smart, these little semantic games can trip us up. But I mean, they're not entirely incidental, but it does show the limitation of our perception, like in our
So
ability to.
have you
Good.
seen my series? Why is Protestant theology so bad?
I assume it's because it's run by humans, but yeah.
I have a series, and the answer I give is because it's by one person. And anytime it's one person, as opposed to, excuse me, something that years and years of people have tried to refine and perfect, right? You end up with stuff like this. Like one of the first videos I had was with Mike Winger, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And like he's talking about praying to angels and saints.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, from Genesis to Revelation, you never get anybody praying to, you don't get anybody praying to an angel or a saint. And I'm like, is he joking? Because in Genesis, well, I actually saw my doctor and he gave me a bunch of stuff, and it's not from talking too much. It's yeah, hopefully it'll get better soon. But like in Genesis, you have Jacob saying Hamalach Hago Eloti, the angel who has saved me from all evil, bless the children, right? So he's actually asking for the intercession of a saint, of a whatchamacallit?
Angel.
Yeah.
Angel.
Well, I mean, let me ask you. So I was going to say, first of all, yeah, I think that's one thing that I think might get a little dicey because with like somebody with, what am I trying to say? Somebody like Mike Winger and a lot of us are basing off of translations. So we're analyzing the English language translations, or sometimes Hebrew and Greek and stuff like that. But we're having to do both cultural and linguistic transpositions and whatnot, and then try and map that onto what precise definitions or conceptual, loose or specific understandings people have of those words. So yeah, I can see that because obviously somebody like Peugeot would say the angel of this conversation or the spirit of the conversation or something like that. And then I think there are a number of things that map to some degree to some degree. Because
I actually like Mike Winger. He's a pretty smart guy.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
And I've watched his but he also, some of my, like, the clips that I have made have been particularly from Mike Winger.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's very Protestant.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen some of Matt Whitman's stuff too?
Sounds familiar.
He does the very nonsensically named 10-minute Bible hour. But he basically was going around to a lot of different churches and synagogues and stuff like that, doing tours, basically trying to understand like all the different denominations, interviewing people. He's actually
Is he the guy with the bow tie?
No. He's basically standard balding white guy with a cap a lot of times.
Okay.
I think he's friends with the guy that does Smarter Every Day, Dustin Sandlin, I think. Anyway, but he's got a whole slew of really interesting stuff, and for better or for worse, he comes across as he tries to be fair and maybe not exactly winsome, but I'd say that his general approach it definitely leans that way. But he also tries to have probing questions and thinking about things reasonably and leaving room for stuff to breathe, which is, I think, smart, helpful, all that sort of stuff. But anyway, where are we going with that?
Answer Steve. I have not tried to interview Robert Eisenman, partially because he's just been getting old, partially because he's kind of ornery and rambles a lot. And if I were to go down that line, I would first be trying to talk to James Tabor. So, which maybe I should, but honestly, we'll see. Once I have more time, I think I'm gonna try to get John Vervaeke on to talk. I'm gonna try to do more with my Fountain of Comfort stuff.
Very nice.
I feel like I interrupted. Where were you going before I went on the recommendations rabbit trail?
I don't remember.
But you're getting something for your cough, so that's good.
Well, yeah, I'm sucking on a cough drop.
Yes, that definitely helps. Anyway, so what was Shane going?
I did hours of commentary, Chezi, just minutes ago.
Hours of commentary?
Oh, literally hours. Yes.
Actually, just remember where you were going, by the way, Jacob. You were talking about him praying to angels, Jacob, in the Bible.
Yeah. So, like, a mistake like that, saying you would never find this in the entire Bible when it's right there in Genesis, like that's the type of thing that happens when you are an individual and not relying on a whole tradition which has thousands of people over thousands of years trying to understand something as deep as the Bible.
Right. And it's funny because you could think of the four evangelists writing their testimony and experience of the God-man Jesus Christ as them answering your prayers, like they're giving you answers to questions. They're participating in your salvation insofar as God is speaking to you through his word, and also like the story of Paul to the Galatians, like that's all answers to prayers as far as I'm concerned. Like it's the activity, it's the actual activity of the saints, like that you're experiencing. If I've imagined if yeah.
I'm not sure I understood where you're going with that,
Well,
but
basically, okay, go ahead. But
the Dodgers apparently are doing well in the World Series.
yay!
That was the World's. Is that? I guess fall's around the corner, huh? Fall Classic time, I guess.
Isn't it the World Series right now?
I mean, it's called the Fall Classic, and fall's about to hit, so I would assume so. I'm not following it.
So apparently, it's Game 3 just ended 4-2
Of the final, or is this still playoffs, semifinals, or something?
I believe this is the actual World Series.
Okay. Alrighty.
I have not followed baseball in many, many years.
That might have been why I saw something come across my feed that was talking about how they had those Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence at a Dodgers game recently.
The World Series are apparently 3-0 Dodgers. If they win a game in the next 4 games, they win.
Okay.
And Professor Dr. Marcus is a professor and a doctor, so.
Oh, well.
Okay,
That
so
case.
I'm saying that you see the intercessions of saints in a real way. Like, okay, so like a modern saint, Saint John of Shanghai and San Francisco, there's stories of him just like showing up in situations where he was called upon. And like, so in the Old Testament, Moses interceded for people on the mountain. He said, "Don't destroy these people, please, even though they're being rambunctious."
Idolatrous.
Yeah, idolatrous and rambunctious and being what you would imagine kids would be. So, and then it was like, and then what? No, the Jonah's interceding for an entire city that has gone awry, and
Pretty
was
begrudgingly.
trying not to intercede.
Yeah.
right. Well, he was trying not to, but he ended up going where he was called to go. And then, well, it's like, there's and then I was reading the story about, who was it? It was, oh yeah, Moses and Aaron. And Aaron, God said, I'm going to bring Aaron to you. And then so it pans to Aaron, and Aaron's just hanging out with his wife, and God tells him to go and meet up with his brother, because he told Moses that Aaron was going to go meet him. So then he tells Aaron, this is where you need to go. And Aaron, it seems like he doesn't want to do it, and he starts doing other things. And it says, and God went to kill Aaron. And then Aaron didn't get killed, but he ended up, oh shoot, he had to go see his brother. Like God told him.
I do not remember this story.
Yeah, this is in it's in the beginning of Exodus. It's within the first 7 chapters of Exodus.
Was it his wife or Miriam, their sister?
Let me see. Well, I actually have an icon of Mary and Martha that I just got, funnily enough. But it's here. I got it right here. It's God's. Oh, there we go. See. So Aaron and Moses, 8 years. The families of Moses, Aaron. Okay, here, I'm seeing it. Okay. Moses returned to
Yeah, I
Egypt.
remember the story of Gershom, but that's a whole different story.
Okay, so I'm seeing it right here when Moses went, go in peace. You return.
Exodus what?
Exodus. I'm seeing. I just got to the part where Aaron and him met up, but I'm trying to see where right before that. So it's right before Exodus, right somewhere before Exodus 5 somewhere. Okay, I'm seeing the area.
I know Miriam was a figure in the inner circle of Moses, but yeah, I don't remember. I feel like that does sound.
4, it says God said to Aaron, "Go and meet your."
Right, I saw. I'm trying to find who, because I thought it said the Lord went to pursue Aaron, and it used the word kill. I'm trying to find it.
That happens with Moses right before that, because he did not.
Right, he was doubtful.
Did not circumcise his son.
Oh, thus it came to pass on the way at the end that the angel of the Lord met him and sought to kill him. Oh wait, so that's Zipporah. Oh, okay, so I just misunderstood. Never mind that. But anyway, Moses. So anyway, Well, something not good happens to Aaron anyway, right? Later.
Lots of not good things happen to Aaron, yes, including two of his sons dying.
Yeah. There's actually, and it's funny because you see the continuity in the lives of the later saints. Like there was one saint, he was getting older and all his, and he wanted to become a monastic, and his wife didn't want that, and so his wife was not allowing him to become a monastic, and then their kids started dying, and she saw what was happening and said, "Go immediately and go become a monk." I think that I need to get my name straight and stuff, so I don't go around saying God's trying to kill people that He's not trying to kill.
Probably a good idea.
Probably a really good idea, actually.
Yeah.
Although apparently, I mean, in Deuteronomy 9, it does mention God being angry with Aaron and wanting to destroy him.
Oh.
But that was after the sin of the golden calf.
Right. Wow.
I mean, not to be adversarial or anything, but it is interesting as we're talking about praying to saints and stuff like that Moses is invoked, because I feel like a good chunk of scripture talks about God trying to speak directly and have a good relationship with people, and then we're wimping out, and like Moses is supposed to do all this sort of stuff, but he's like, I can't speak. I don't trust God to speak through me. I'm gonna go ahead and need somebody else. The guy's like, no, I'm going to use you, and since you're such a freaking pansy, his exact words, I'm going to let your brother, Aaron, speak. You give him the words that he'll actually do the presenting, so have fun with that. But, geez, Moses, come on. But it's one of the things that I just don't know that at least in what I've read and all that, I don't know that I understand why there is such a deep desire for people to use saints in a iconographic way as opposed to just the direct access thing. Like, because considering that we could easily be blown away by God's glory in full, and yet it's been given some level of access. I feel like it's one of those things, like if you're given a gift and you refuse it, that's kind of insulting. And so I don't know. I have a little bit of a hard time with that. So I mean, one of the reasons I'm not Orthodox, but I don't know.
Well, I think the thing is, right. I'm not an authority, and I think it has to do with like, it's like if you ask a I guess for me, what I've kind of it's like, okay, who are you? Like asking kind of myself and having that humility of like, who am I that, if I ask God for something, He's going to give it to me. It does say that, but I think there's doubts, if you ask of Him, He will give it to you. And
as long as the desires of your heart are Him.
Right. And if you do know somebody who is recognized, so I like Orthodoxy because saints are actually recognized. Like I like Charles Spurgeon and I like Kierkegaard, but they weren't a part of the church, and there's no criterion for they didn't take the normative path for whatever reason. And even though, people, because the Orthodox belief is people who are saints, whether they're recognized or not, they are alive in Christ. Like there's even likely people from any time in history who were saints who just didn't get recognized, right? And
by people, but that's not the most important thing,
right? So if I see somebody and and they're I can tell they're close to God. it's like, why wouldn't you, like, they're the people that you ask to help you. And
Yeah, no, I mean, I get that. I think that's the thing. That's probably the distinction that I would have, is because a lot of times that I would say that might be one of the slippery slopes, if you will, of kind of Gnostic adjacent thought, where you're thinking of, if people think of things as purely being in a ethereal zone, if spiritual isn't the right word, maybe. But I think part of the thing that again, coming back to this whole framing thing, we keep on forgetting that God is the God of creation, which is reality itself, not just spirit. And people are His creation, His work, and we have tasks that are, we are supposed to be a royal priesthood. We're doing His work in His vineyard while He's out. Not exactly out, but he's visiting in another realm, or currently residing there for reasons that we will eventually find out, I'm sure. But I think that's the reason why. I mean, and we have life cycles, all these sorts of things. I feel like what I'm trying to get to is that we do, I think, interact with saints daily, or with people of God daily, hopefully. And at the very least with people that are being moved by the Spirit of God, hopefully, which is things that are functional and good and true and beautiful and all that sort of stuff. Because that's the source of all things. He made the world, the entire functioning of the universe. There is nothing that is good that He did not create and craft, right? And to the extent that we participate in that, then and can encourage each other in that and all that sort of thing. But I think when it comes to the Spirit, why would we not speak directly to the source and seek that and ask for providence from Him first, and allow it to be distributed through people that are alive and walking around, that we can, while in this realm, we can physically interact with, and would, at least in the Christian conception, would that not just be Jesus and His Holy Spirit that are working through us, through the other people that are around, through writings, through scriptures, through whatever else, but obviously even the saints, whatever benefit and goodness that they have is coming only through God Himself, if it's good. Otherwise, I mean, and yes, the creative, the sub-creative derivations that are passed through us, right? Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things that I feel like that I see so many things, to me, strike me as us just daily struggling with that. The reason why in the Ten Commandments there's multiple things that talk about having no God before God. Like we are, it's mentioned multiple times because our pride and limited capabilities and understanding predispose us to creating gods that we can wield better, as opposed to fully deferring to the one that we can't. Which is, yeah.
That's an interesting good line of questioning. Questions. I think I think you can be in touch with, so predestination is a thing in Orthodoxy, but it's not Protestant predestination. I'm sure Jacob knows about it. It's basically God knows who His people are, and He knows who is going to want to be close to Him. And basically the predestination is God intercedes for those people who want to commune with Him, and shows Himself and guides them to, if I understand it correctly, it's He directs them to liturgy. And so, and then when you become a catechumen, you have a guardian angel who's leading you to baptism. And then once you're baptized, you're part of the God's body, and you have the opportunity you're saved at baptism and you continue to be saved afterwards. Don't ask me what that means, because there's things like I was hanging out with a bunch of baptized Orthodox people, and they're basically like, there's a part in liturgy where they say depart catechumens, and he was like, my one regret was not departing when they said depart catechumens, because after they say depart catechumens, there is no way that you can understand what happens after that. And so my spiritual father, he's like, you don't have to depart when we say depart catechumens. Yesterday, I just went into the foyer, which is still in the same, like, there's no door between the foyer and the chapel. And I just hung out there. I'll probably still just participate in the whole thing and just stand there while everyone takes communion and stuff. But that is to say, I don't understand it, because I have no way of understanding it, because it's a mystery. But I think that basically you're participating in the life of God and heaven on earth in the Orthodox Church. Other things that I'm basically just trying to say things that I've heard from people that are reputable in the sphere, like priests and stuff. And it's the normative path to salvation. Even though God can do whatever he wants, he can reach out to whoever he wants, he can save whoever, he's our greatest advocate. He's everyone's greatest advocate in being saved. And one thing my priest told me is that on the day of judgment, you shouldn't fear God, you should fear yourself, because you will damn yourself. Whereas God is your greatest advocate. And so I think like the direct access thing, I think that's in liturgy. I think that the direct access, because you're actually reaching out and touching God, and it's the extension of his love on earth. And so I think direct access is like, well, and also the priest is the presence of Christ in the church. So there's your direct access. Like the Orthodox believe you're supposed to follow your spiritual father the way that Christ, you're supposed to be obedient to your priest and your spiritual father the way Christ was obedient to God, to his father. Mm-hmm. And so like holy obedience is a big thing. And it's like, I love it. Like it's just amazing. And I'm really glad that like, yeah. So, and direct access is like, you kind of, if you're looking for direct access, it's like, the Bible, what did somebody say? It was like it's the word of God. So you want to, like, you can read, the word, but yeah, I don't know. As far as like, I think, there might also be an aspect of like openness to God when you talk about like having a direct experience that's overwhelming. I think like God finds people who are prepared for that sort of thing. And as much as you think you're prepared and you're open for it, I think like that like Saul at the time, he had actually, this is in Father Stephen DeYoung's book, where he is trained in the tradition of replicating the experiences of Ezekiel, and he was proficient in that. And so when he did get his Road to Damascus experience, he had a way of interpreting that experience. Whereas, so yeah.
Yeah, I read an early draft of his book. I haven't actually gotten the book.
Okay. Well, you guys are buddies, so you know it's less of it. Like you're getting all the information in vitro, like. So that's really good. I'm actually really like, I don't know, happy for you. I'm like, that's a good friend to have.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah. I just bought oh shoot, my metal cross. I just got, so I'm looking at my thing here. It's funny because I'm not super like I kind of want to move my bookshelf out of here because I don't know that it's healthy to have just so many books all around all the time. But I have, yeah, God is a Man of War. I need to read that. But yeah, when's the last time you talked to him, Jacob?
He was on a few weeks ago. Well, maybe more like a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't send. He sent me. He sent me an advanced draft. He didn't send me a copy of the book. I'm thinking probably because he forgot, and I didn't feel right like asking him for it.
Hey, in some sense, that's almost more of an accolade than the actual book. Like that's so.
Oh yeah,
cool.
I mean, I wanted to see the early draft so I could try to. So he said he said he added in a footnote based on what I said. So that's actually why I want to see the final copy. Yeah, but I might just buy it. It's just gonna feel weird if I do buy it and then he's like, "Oh, I forgot to send you one," and he sends me one.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's nicer to have like Father Stephen gave me this.
Right.
So.
Oh, did he actually? Is that his work on the Apocrypha? That's okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So it's like a book he actually gave me.
Yeah.
I also have a book here that Dr. Rollergator gave me, which I'm also very proud of.
Hey,
The Dr. Rollergator?
What?
The Dr. Rollergator?
The Dr. Rollergator, yeah. I actually know the Dr. Rollergator. We've never met, but I've known him from
Does he speak in all caps in real life?
No.
Okay.
Nope. But I actually even got to online interact with his mom. His mom passed about a year ago, unfortunately. But yeah, so Dr. Rollergator, I actually know the real name of Dr. Rollergator. I wish I could agree with Paul within Judaism. I would rather I wish I could agree with Paul within Judaism. It's just I don't find it very convincing. I certainly prefer Christians believe in Paul within Judaism than believe in like traditional views of Paul or even new perspectives of Paul. Father Stephen would say that Paul within Judaism is the traditional perspective of Paul, but well, he would say it's how the patristics viewed Paul, but I'm not sure I can agree to that. So.
On a slightly tangential note, I was trying to just when we were talking about all the different, basically our conversation leading up to this, I came across just all the examples because I was thinking about the concept of calling on the name of the Lord, and I came across Isaiah 44.
What about Isaiah 44?
Well, the whole thing really is quite interesting. But what came to mind was just talking about
Isaiah 44.
Yes.
But hear, O Jacob, my servant, Israel, whom I have chosen. Thus said God, your maker, your creator, who has helped you since birth. Fear not, my servants. Al Tira Avdi Yaakov, Yeshurun Bahar Tibo. Yeah, this is actually one of the chapters where we get a lot of our liturgy from.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just because there's so much that refers to calling on the name of the Lord for help, and some will say, I belong to the Lord, others will call themselves by the name of Jacob, still others will write on their hand the Lord's, and will take the name Israel.
Yeah,
And then
and
there's-
you are my witnesses. This is where the JWs get their name from, I believe.
Well, there's also the New Testament. You'll be my witnesses in Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth, and all that stuff. Which I mean, it all self-references, but bounces back and forth. But is there any God besides me? No, there is no other rock. I know not one. All who make idols are nothing, and the things they treasure are worthless. Or who would speak up for them are blind. They are ignorant to their own shame. Who shapes a god and casts an idol? Who can profit nothing? Which can profit nothing. People who do that will be put to shame. Such craftsmen are only human beings. Let them all come together and take their stand. They will be brought down to terror and shame. The blacksmith takes a tool and works it within the coals. He shapes an idol with hammers. He forges it with the might of his arm. He gets hungry and loses his strength. He drinks no water and grows faint. Carpenter measures with a line and makes an outline with a marker. He roughs it out with chisels and marks it with compasses. He shapes it in human form in all its glory, that it may dwell in a shrine. He cuts down cedars, or perhaps took a cypress or oak. He let it grow among the trees of the forest, or planted a pine, and the rain made it grow. It is used as fuel for burning. Some of it he takes and warms himself. I mean, just, yeah, there's just a lot there that, yeah, there's just a lot there.
I have no idea who Rabbi Richmond is, Don. There you go, Isaiah 44.
I mean, it goes on for a while, but yeah.
And then 45:1, where
Oh, yeah.
God speaks to his Messiah.
I mean, it talks about you a lot, Jacob.
I had to take a picture for my future godfather. He wanted to see something.
Your future godfather.
Yeah, because I'm not baptized. You become. Yeah.
I see, said the blind man. Clear as mud. So how are your brother and sister doing up there?
They're good. Yeah. Always.
You have a twin sister, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Ezzy also has a twin sister.
Yeah, is that the Levite in the chat?
Yep.
The young Levite?
Yep.
I've probably seen his face and I probably know him, but I'd have to see his facial expressions and animations to be able to pinpoint who he is. Hezi. Oh, I know Hezi. Yeah. Of course. Yeah, we've interacted a lot. Yeah. So I have a spiritual father who is my spiritual father, and then you have a godfather, which is different than your spiritual father.
And he's God.
He's your godfather. He's basically like
I was just making a joke about Godfather.
And so I mean, yeah, I defer comment for now. So if you have a godfather and your godfather also has a goddaughter, his goddaughter and yourself are god siblings. That's your sister, and so you can't marry your god sister.
Really?
Yes.
That is really interesting.
Yes. Yeah. It's very interesting, actually.
That's so weird because, like, then you really shouldn't, pick somebody who's popular in the church as your godfather because then you might end up like inadvertently like not being able to marry someone for no other reason.
And it's not entirely your decision. It's mostly your decision, but your spiritual father has to help you choose that. So I have my god brother, and it's cool because my god brother, his name's Anthony, and you just see these like little providential happenings because Saint Anthony of the Desert, which is his patron saint, and Saint Athanasius, every time Athanasius got exiled, he would go to Saint Anthony for edification and growth, and then whenever he would come back to the people, he would be greeted with open arms. But he was exiled like 5 times, and then he got reinstated, and all's well that ends well.
All is well if it ends well.
Yeah. I really enjoy the God family thing, because there was also, if there's somebody that you enjoy being with, but also they are, what would you say? You like them in a way where it's like the modern world. If you like a woman, but you don't end up, it doesn't end up in anything explicitly romantic or something like that, the modern world will say, oh, you're just a nice guy, you're a simp, this, that, and the other thing. But then there's a way that can happen lawfully, in a way where it's like there's no shame attached to it. It's your god sister. It's your even like your sister in Christ. It's like there's ways that it can work, because Lord knows I can't handle as many women as are jumping, jumping at the bit. Yeah, hey Jacob, you're no spring chicken.
Yeah, I kind of am a spring
I'm
chicken.
preaching to the choir here. Jacob is a wanted man in many states.
Yeah, that never happened. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to your point about that, though, Shane, I think that's actually a really good thing to note. Is just the world / culture / whatever, they definitely have a strong push towards love equals sex.
Yes.
And you do not screw everything you love.
Yes.
Nor should you.
Yeah, it's very, I mean, lust is a real thing, and maybe at moments you wish that that's what love equated to, because then you would be confirmed in the worst parts about you. But when I was a kid, I actually valued a platonic friendship and a conversation that would lead to a more, like, my sense of having a conversation where I left feeling the presence of the divine. That hasn't happened since I was like, well, it has happened, but when I was 18, like, I had like a friend who was a female who I had that sort of conversation with, and she's probably the reason I even like stuck with like reading and philosophy and all that. And hopefully her, and we don't talk anymore, and it's partially because I became more like, I actually kind of want a wife now, and I want a relationship. But that sort of thing, as I started interacting with more people in life, I think that you learn about other forms of relationship that are just as good, even though you should wait to have those kinds of relationships. But I think the basis is what you experience as a child. And as a young person, it's like, that is the stuff that is
right. Well,
right.
And that's, which is precisely why it's such an abomination to have all this push to normalize sexuality at such a young age.
Right.
Because it absolutely sets you up for just exploitation of the freaking carnal desires at all stages of life.
Yeah, even in one generation, it's went like I walked outside of this place. There's a high school right next door,
Mhm.
and like it's just even the people like that I was friends with in middle school and high school, they were like, "Where did this come from?" Because these kids are like, I and I'm like, I feel like I missed out as a kid. Like the worst parts of me are like, oh, like, is this what all the kids in high school were doing when I was in high school? Because I didn't know that everyone was so crazy. And
Uh, the funny thing is, like,
uh-huh.
young people are having so much less sex in high school nowadays than they were when
Yeah.
I was in high school.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
assuming you mean actual as opposed to masturbatory.
Yeah, like there's tons and tons of porn all over the place, but people
Right.
aren't actually having sex.
Right.
Hmm. Liabilities and whatnot. But again, it's just one of those things where one thing has led to another, and it just keeps on degrading. It's an entropy of social, psychosocial, spiritual, psychosocial, sexual, everything.
Yeah, and then I also when Jacob was talking, I'm like, oh, but these kids know something, and I think the thing that the kids know is that this possibly there's Saint Father Seraphim Rose. He he said the kids these days, they honestly, it could be like how many generations are there left? Like the Escatons, it's later than you think, was Father Seraphim Rose, and he said like you basically like be quick, repent, get to the work of repentance because and I think like honestly the generation younger than I, like they have so much energy and they're so like their humor like is honestly like peak and I'm like they are actually enjoying life, but I feel like it's going to be either they're going to be able to utilize that energy to actually dig their feet in and incorporate other people in society into the decisions they make, like actually are conscientious in that way, or it's going to be very difficult because they've I honestly there's a part of me that hopes a lot of like that they can stay energetic and happy and stuff like that and still and use it for good things rather than or even just the experience of enjoying life rather than devolving and having it be like a horrible road to get out of it because I've had a lot of pain in as far as like repentance and things and wanting to be actually pleasing in God's eyes. And so just that pain makes me it makes me almost more like I hope kids I think that's the responsibility of the adults is like this is going to hurt later if you're doing something that's um inappropriate because it also
Sure.
dulls your conscience and then over time it's like
Oh yeah.
this is going to hurt you, but not only is it going to hurt you, you're going to be dulled to the point where you don't realize it's hurting you anymore, but it is. And then that's almost one of my friends was talking about conditioned. He doesn't believe in like the Calvinist idea of depravity,
Huh.
like, but he thinks that it can be conditioned, and that's basically a damned person is like you are you will never repent and that is the damnation is you're so conditioned towards depravity that you won't repent. And so that's the difficulty and that was the difficulty is it's like just stuff keeps coming up and you still got to work. You got to work through it. Just
Sure.
turn to God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Immediately. Sorry to get super serious on your little just chatting, Jacob.
I will never
I know.
forget it.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. But yeah, that's the second. I remember one time I was talking about like the end of the world stuff on your podcast, and I was like, gave you a hypothetical, and you were like, that'd be. I was like, what if people like start murdering each other? And you were like, that'd be awful. I have to leave now.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, I mean, Jacob's already had to flee one country. He'd prefer not to have to flee another.
Hey, Jacob's not leaving. He's sticking his post though. He's not leaving his own podcast. If some you gotta what does it say like the what I forget which verse and book it's in, but the wicked flee when no one pursues, and the righteous are as bold as lions. I like that one.
Sounds
Yeah.
Psalmy.
Yeah.
That sounds is it Psalms?
It's
I think
his, well, it's one of the wisdom literatures.
I don't think it's Psalms. But plenty of stuff happens on my channel when I'm not here.
What are your thoughts on modern art, Jacob?
I think it's possible for
Proverbs 28.
Proverbs. Okay. I think it's possible for art to be done in new ways, and that's beautiful and stuff. But hello, Andrew. You're very dark.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we hear you. He's being silly.
Please, fresh new faces.
So dark.
What were we
Yeah,
talking about? Modern art.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. Like, I think photography is a new form of art. I think it's possible to have beautiful things. What I dislike is when people call ugly and stupid things art because they disgust you, etc. That's not art.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I had a better relationship with photography once. I mean, it's like anything. You can,
Right.
I think the tricky thing with photography, at least in so much as it relates to people, is just it's weaponized, like anything can be. But it struck me as being highly weaponized in a way that basically adopts the mantle of truth telling, while often being fundamentally altered and shaped in such a way as to craft narrative that misleads often or feeds ego, which is its own issue. So, but I appreciate it because I think it's useful for helping share things and share beautiful things that are real.
Do you mean photography?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Can I show you guys some art I did recently?
Sure.
Only if it's good art.
Okay. All right. You decide. I'll show you the first one, and then if you like it, I can go on to the next one.
I remember you did a Dostoevsky that was pretty good.
Yeah, I sold that to who did I sell that to? I sold it to
Sherry.
That's not Dostoevsky.
no,
That looks
that's
very
That's
Dragon Ball
Goku.
Z.
yeah.
Okay.
I sold that to who's
Sherry, I'm pretty sure.
yeah,
No?
yep.
Yeah, I saw it when I went and visited her.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's the
this looks
perfect cell.
very anime-ish.
Uh-huh. That's what I drew when I was a kid, so I've just been like that's been what's been salient or what was salient when I did these.
Mm.
Is
Then I
that
gave
Speed
it.
Racer?
That was not Speed Racer. That was from Dragon Quest.
Mm.
And when I was a child, my dad, he used to take off days from work to play video games and stuff.
Mhm.
And one of the characters from Dragon Age, he didn't have a name because it was one of those characters where you have to name them yourself.
Mhm.
And so his name for him was Cool Guy. So I named him Cool Guy.
All right.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah. Gosh. Think of my dad. You guys ever think about how cool your dad was, unless he was an a-hole? I think about
My dad had sideburns and bell bottoms in Iran in the 60s.
man, and he somehow reproduced. That's amazing.
That's how you did it back then.
I know exactly. And then it's funny because the people, the attire of the normal person, still when there's somebody who's really animated in the modern day who takes that on and is actually has the appropriate like aesthetic from the normal garb before, it still is beautiful. Like there's people who are wearing bell bottoms these days who actually pull it off if they wear, as long as they utilize, because I think if you utilize modern technology and modern fabric, like clothing, design, and manufacturing, you can make the same clothes as before that were like a vintage set of clothing, except it can be even more beautiful because you have more advanced means of making it.
Well, I mean, it's like most fashion is entirely dependent on it being on an attractive person. Like something
Yeah.
well done is well done.
Right.
It translates.
Right.
I think Mark Lefebvre,
Mhm.
I think he like what is the phrase he always uses? Not ephemeral. Oh gosh, what's that word he constantly uses?
Oh,
The,
ineffable.
ineffable. There we go. Yeah, the ineffable aspects of beauty and everything else. But
Yeah.
Well,
I can never
Grimberg
pronounce mine.
says if you're going to F the ineffable, F it hard.
Charisma. Oh man. It's funny. It's funny because we both Grizz
Wow.
Grizz was in with like the first person in this little corner that Grizz and I were like the right hand mans of sorting myself out with Mercury and Ryan. And it's funny because Grizz and I, man, I feel like our character arcs are similar in the sense of we just like you when stuff needs to happen that is interesting and weird, like we know how to get that into our lives in a way that only being to really tight with Mercury can procure, I feel like. I really miss Mercury, man. I want to see him around.
He hasn't been around for a while.
I understand that. I talked to him a year and a half ago when I was in Georgia. I talked with him. and he seemed to be doing well, but he wasn't basically making content, and so I hope he's doing well in his own monastic practice, because that's basically what it is.
I'm gonna have to dip out, fellas. I have a small person that requires assistance in falling asleep.
Does he kind of look like you? Or
She.
oh, she. Okay.
Less beard, but yeah.
All right. God bless you, Eric.
Okay.
Please.
See you later, Eric.
Later, guys.
Good night with your family. Man.
Okay, Andrew, what do you have to say for yourself?
I don't know, nothing much. Yeah, that's about it.
This guy got on here for a silly goose time, and that's it.
He does that.
Sometimes, yeah.
Man. Well, I miss you, Jacob. I got to get up for work at 10 tomorrow, so I've got 4 hours, but 4 hours will bring me at exactly 8 hours, and that's how long I need to sleep. So, I love you, man.
Seeing you again.
Yes. It's always good seeing you too, Jacob.
Yeah.
All right, I'll talk to
stranger.
you. What's that?
Don't be a stranger.
I won't be a stranger. Okay.
I'll talk to you later.
All right, talk
Have
to you
a
later.
good one.
Thanks, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
I wish I had something to say.
How's Platinum Fitness?
It's going. Busy day today.
Ooh, busy day. What
Yeah.
happened?
Just lots of people. I think more people than this location can handle.
So what are you gonna do?
Dude, I've got no clue. Well, it might be a one-off, so.
How are the classes?
I mean, in general, they're good. No complaints so far. Yeah, just today was busy. Yeah. I ordered that Father Stephen book,
Which one?
the Paul the Pharisee.
Well, when you get it, I actually want to take a look at it.
That's great, because I sent it to your place.
When'd you buy it?
Like 20 minutes ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll come on like Wednesday or something.
Good thing I won't be here.
Ah! What happened?
I'm joking.
Okay.
Colonimus Eliezer and Yechezkel are having quite a little discussion in the chat.
Hmm. Ba-da-ba-da-ba. Ba-da-ba. Ba-da-ba-da-ba.
There's a bunch of people watching. I don't know why.
I'm just that popular. I'm sorry.
Well, nobody knows you're there.
Yeah, it's like that, whatever, on-ramp radio, I'm practicing for that. I'm practicing. I'm gonna be the guest of honor.
If you say so.
I do say so.
How's the searching for an internship coming along?
Yeah, it's going. There's a plumbing place that'll their applications are like I just have to set up an appointment. Um, the thing is, like, I didn't find my diploma, so I figure I'd just walk in there with my transcript because I don't want to hunt for a diploma again and all that jazz. And
I'm really surprised they're asking you for your diploma.
yeah, I don't know why. Like, of all things, I think, if I'm not mistaken, most of these trade places want certification that you take some sort of algebra class. So I don't know why a transcript wouldn't work, but
Yeah, and you've taken way more than algebra.
yeah, a good bit.
Just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Just a little tiny bit more than algebra.
Yeah, a little teensy teensy weensy bit.
Yeah, you might just know a bit about physics, just a tiny bit.
Yeah, maybe.
hmm
Well,
You never
yeah, let's see.
considered architecture?
Considered it somewhat. From what I hear, it's torture.
Yep, we used to call it the School of Architecture. They had showers and cots in the architecture building
Oof.
when I was at USC.
Yeah, I don't think I'm that devoted to architecture. Yeah, so that's plumbing. HVAC and electrician. I think electrician is due in February, HVAC in January. Something like that. But I do have to set up an appointment for application stuff. Let's go.
Yeah, sometimes I think what would happen if I was back, like if I was back in high school trying to decide what to major in. And I think I would major in math in undergrad, but I would I would be interested in becoming a structural engineer. That would be interesting.
Yeah, no.
You don't know if
Yeah.
I would be interested in being a structural engineer?
I don't know.
Super random question.
Super random answer.
I didn't actually have one, but I just figured you were probably thinking of one.
No.
Oh.
Head empty. No thoughts.
No thoughts.
Yeah. You read the Dead Sea Scrolls, yeah?
I have read some Dead Sea Scrolls. I have not read the entirety, no. I probably should get Gezever the Penguin edition, but like every time I think about getting that, I'm like, I should get the full set with the Hebrew, but like when I think about getting the full set with the Hebrew, I'm like, I don't know. First of all, it's a lot. Like, I don't know if they've completely finished deciphering them. And it's like, I don't know if I'm actually going to make it to read it. So, like, I've been making do whatever I read 4QMMT. That was interesting.
Isn't it? It's well, from what the English bit of what I read, isn't it like fragmentary and shit? Like I could hardly. There's so many dots in there. I was like, am I actually reading anything?
Well, okay, so I read the reconstructed. So like there are various reconstructions of 4QMMT.
Okay.
But basically I think I think everyone's agreed that the reconstruction that's like, well, there were multiple copies of it, so somebody ended up reconstructing it, and like the problem is the guy who reconstructed it has the copyright on it, and he doesn't want it published yet, so he keeps on suing everybody who publishes it.
That's wild.
Why is that wild?
2,000-year-old document gets released, and some dude with a copyright keeps pushing it off. Oh my
And-
gosh.
And it went all the way to
What?
the Israeli Supreme Court because people were
Really?
arguing you can't copyright a reconstruction of a 2,000-year-old document. But the Israeli Supreme Court ended up ruling in his favor.
Oh, that's wild. That's
Yep.
wild.
Yes, it
I
is.
think it belongs to the Essenes, man. Right? Isn't he just cribbing on them?
Well, the argument was that it took his skill and stuff to reconstruct it. And so if somebody were to reconstruct it by themselves, that's one thing. But just like assuming his reconstruction, like you can't print his work.
Okay, so can I, like, you know, reconstruct it myself and
Sure, go ahead and reconstruct it yourself. Let's
Perfect.
see you reconstruct it yourself and
perfect.
print it.
You know, I think there's an existing reconstruction that I can creatively repurpose.
Yeah.
Right? Isn't that what the Essenes were doing, right? They're just reconstructing off Moses.
Go argue it before the Israeli Supreme Court. I just think it's a bunch of Christians who are trying desperately not to let everybody know Christianity is false.
Yeah, you know, like, what can you do, right?
Mm.
Oh, the reconstructionist dude is a Christian.
The guy who reconstructed it, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Oh, okay.
What are all these people saying?
I don't
Steve
know,
says
man.
Planet Fitness sucks.
I somewhat agree.
Garth is waiting for pizza. Have you contacted Luke or CW for the wedding weekend? I have not contacted either one. CW hasn't talked to me in a while. Yeah, I haven't made any plans yet. Yes, Andrew is going to be a trades bro if he decides not to whatchamacallit. Did you go up to Calc 3, Andrew? Maybe just a little bit past that, just a tiny.
I went up to differential equations.
Yeah. Cal went to Lakewood and was at the Mirror for a whole year.
Yeah.
Fezzy. Jacob, what is your favorite type of music to listen to? I'm a jazz saxophonist. Sax is actually one of my favorite instruments. It may be my favorite single instrument, but I don't listen to jazz that much. Eric is back. His daughter is asleep.
Just takes a little snuggle sometimes. But can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Wait.
So I guess we lost Shane, huh?
Hmm.
We did.
Ah.
Yes, he went to sleep, which I'm very glad he did that.
Oh shoot. Yeah, I'm supposed to do that too. I had a thought that I was going to mention to him real quick because he was talking about kids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if just you had the talk with them or something like that, and I lost the thought at some point. But yeah, I mean the crazy thing that's I think one of those things that verifies scriptures. It talks about how we can be told all the right things and guided the right way, and yet there's no guarantee that like just communicating is necessary, but yeah, like there's so many stories of people's just not that people will choose not to listen. That is the pattern that replicates. We're stubborn. And
I'm
it's
not
Kalaniman,
tragic.
Eliezer, I have been trying to find someone who's willing to teach chapter 7 of Sanhedrin on this channel. If you want to do a Chavruta, chapter 7, I got a Kobitz Meforshim. I have a blue art scroll. I have a red art scroll. Let's do this thing. I don't expect you to know anything I said there, but like that's me trying to get Kalonimus Eliezer to study chapter 7 of Sanhedrin with me.
So, like, is the red one the shiny version, or is it the other way
The
around?
red one is the English one.
Oh, okay.
The blue one is the blue. I mean, the red art scroll is the English, and the blue art scroll is the Hebrew.
The blue one
And
was taught by Moses on Mount Sinai, and the red one is just some fanfic.
but the art scroll is both. It's very modern. Ooh, I would have to prep for a little. I'm gonna need a little more time to acclimate and become comfortable.
Are you guys talking about those
Ozvahadar is
Elder
the
Scrolls
only
games?
way. What'd you say?
Are you talking about those Elder Scrolls games? Is that what y'all are talking about?
No.
Yeah, the Arter schools.
Yeah.
Did I actually buy an Ozvahadar of Sanhedrin? I may have. I did. Is this Sanhedrin? Yeah. With the Maharsha. Is this Ozvahadar? Yeah, it is. Ozvahadar. Ta-da! I came absolutely prepared. No. Arba mitot starts on Memtet Amud Bet. This is slimmed down. It has the Maharsha and it has all the things in the back. Come on. I don't think this is slimmed down. It's pretty big. Really? There's one that's got more in the back? Eric, how did you let me buy the wrong Talmud?
That's a great question. I was high.
That would do it.
At least that's what I learned at Shaggy U. But no, not high.
See, I also got a Kobitz Mevorshim. Come on, come on. We we gonna do this, Colonimus Eliezer? Although I think I bought the wrong red art scroll. Or did I not buy the red art scroll? Yeah, I don't think I bought the red art scroll. I only have the blue art scroll, and I think I bought the wrong blue art scroll. Yeah, this one doesn't go all the way to Memtet. I bought the blue art scroll and I bought the wrong one. So I'm going to have to go buy the Khalak Bet. He's going to give it some thought. There we go. And it's all because Eric has that beautiful beard.
I had no idea the tangential repercussions of allowing facial hair to exist. This is amazing.
Studying Talmud is definitely caused by seeing people with long beards. There's a definite causal relationship between people having nice big beards and other people studying Talmud.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I mean, that's fair. So here's a question. I feel like I've asked this before, but I can't remember the answer. Do you recall what the whole corner of the beards is?
What do you mean?
There was basically the restrictions.
The Bible says, yeah, you are not allowed to shave the corners of your beards.
Right.
And so, because we don't know exactly where the corner is, we don't use a razor on any part of the face.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. So trimming, or
so
cropping, just not shaving.
Hasidic Jews do not trim their beard.
Mm-hmm.
That's not strictly a requirement of that prohibition in the Bible, although some people would argue that it is.
Interesting.
But generally, Orthodox Jews will trim, and they will even trim so much that it looks like they shaved, right?
Wow.
But
Okay.
they do not use a razor.
Right.
And so just as long as it can be considered scissors, meaning that there's two, right? So an electric shaver is fine. You can use it as long as it doesn't have a lift and cut. It's perfectly fine. But
that's interesting.
That's because you're cutting the hair. You're not. The lift and cut thing is also kind of controversial, but most Orthodox Jews won't use lift and cut. But that does not apply to the corner of your head. So here, from here down to here, it has to be long enough for you to grab. And some people grow those long, and those are the side locks.
Right.
You're not required to grow those long, but those you can't shave like you would the rest of your beard over there. But and then there's lots of homiletics and symbolic interpretations of those things.
Yeah.
I gotta
I'm
dash.
guessing
It's great seeing y'all.
Don't do anything I would do.
If you say so.
Yeah, I would assume it has. No, I think I can't remember if I heard a direct claim about this, but I've gotten some level of understanding that it might have had something to do with, leaving the corners of the field.
Yeah, it's the same word is used, And
it's
there-
hassles on robes and stuff like that. And,
exactly, fringes. Yeah, I think what's his name? I think Jonathan Pajot sometimes talks about that type
oh,
of
he
stuff.
has. Yeah, he definitely has.
Yeah.
I mean, it all kind of ties in. I mean, I feel like that ultimately comes down to you don't have it all together, and it's usually a good idea to not have too many hard edges other than those defined by God himself,
Yeah.
something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that, I mean, I feel like to some extent, most of the solid stuff should be attainable and understandable readily. I could be wrong, but it does seem like, with all the other characteristics of God, he would not make it particularly difficult for literally anybody to grasp, except for those that are too proud to, submit to some degree.
Are you so? I forget which denomination. Like, are you non-denominational Christian?
Yes,
So
I
I
guess you could
thought
say
you
that.
were Baptist.
Well,
That's my
here's,
little joke about non-denominational Christians. They're all.
I mean, probably not entirely wrong. I mean, but that's actually one of the funny things is like it's not necessarily. There's plenty of like Pentecostal adjacent. There's lots of different varieties that go non-denom for basically, I don't know, avoiding connotations, I suppose, probably to some degree. Like there's a whole lot of baggage that comes with a number of denominations and stuff. And so, which again, it speaks to the probably, I think at its best, the non-denominational sort of bent is recognizing that ultimately even the denominations become their own idols. You have jokes about Baptists or Lutherans or Anglicans or Methodists or whoever. And again, it starts becoming more about people in their clubs as opposed to um, who it's supposed to be about, which is God.
So, are you a pedo Baptist?
Okay. Yeah. No, not really. Although I wouldn't rule it out either. Exactly. I mean, I feel like
Did you baptize your kid?
no,
Okay.
no. I definitely was raised in more of a believer's baptism sort of mindset, where it's a declaration of maybe how it was described to me was declaration of faith and all that sort of stuff, and obedience basically. Um, And I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, I'm definitely aware of the passages in New Testament letters and all that, where it's talking about, members of the whole household were baptized and all that, which usually is coming after the head of the household adopting the faith and basically leading in that direction. And so I don't know if that necessarily means infants as well, but um, that's not something that I would hang my hat on.
So, do you go to a mega church like most Texans?
We've dabbled. I've dabbled in a number of places across the globe, and again, kind of yeah. I've probably visited, well, generally Protestant, but also some Anglican, also some Catholic, one
Ooh.
Orthodox.
Ooh.
I mean, the church is the church ultimately.
You believe Catholics are Christians?
I think yes. Not. I mean, let's put it this way. I don't think all Catholics are all people that have membership within any particular church. I don't know that necessarily everybody in any denomination is actually what they claim to be. Personally,
Hermeneutics of suspicion, I see.
I mean, it's not so much. I mean, I wouldn't. Yes, I guess it's not. It's not. It's. So I would argue it's one of those things we're called to, which is discernment, which is that they're all, the wolves come among sheep, and whether it be misunderstanding or malice and intentional subterfuge,
And the wheat and the tares,
all the things, all the
all
things. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Here's the thing. I don't think that God would allow all the different denominations to be in his name if there wasn't some level of utility and accessibility or something that could be taught through some elements. But then again, everything that is good, true, and beautiful has ties back. So,
no, it's only the Hindus who are all going to hell.
no, not no. I know. I saw that somebody was trying to pin Vivek Ramaswamy with that or something along those lines.
Really?
Like,
I didn't hear about this. Okay.
oh, yeah, no, he kind of he barked back. He knows what he's doing. Um, but I mean, it's part of the whole thing that Lindsay is getting at. Trying to warn about the woke rights
The
stuff.
woke right, yes.
It's an interesting term. I don't know. It's always difficult. Yeah. Point is that I in general I think it comes back to the idolatry thing, the idolatry and the consolidation of power and influence sort of thing, where you just have to. I mean, people will abuse the concept of loyalty and basically say, "Hey, if you say something that you agree with, now we're in affinity. We're in a group. We're together. Now we follow each other all over." It's like there's this implication that there's owed loyalty, and there's some things that, yeah, like familial and uh, marriage, hopefully, um, all those sorts of things that and within a church or synagogue that you would think that people would be loyal to each other. But first of all, it's always supposed to be to God. People are corrupt, and you know you want to help them. That doesn't mean you agree with what they're doing all the time, and that yeah. So, um, but I think that's one of the things that's very prevalent right now is that, and I think Paul has talked about this with the prophilicity and stuff like that. You basically develop a profile, and then you get people to follow you and all that sort of stuff, right? And but that's not the totality of it, and that's very easily derailed, corrupted. So, what am I trying to get at?
I
Just
have
with the
no clue.
sometimes, I mean, I have a general idea, but there's a lot of things that tie into it, and sometimes I struggle with pulling them all together. But I
I
guess what I'm
know
trying to get,
everything.
good for you, congratulations. I'm honored to be in your presence, sir. Um,
As
no,
well
I
you should.
think what's that?
I said as well you should be.
Yeah, but I think part of the issue is just, and especially with politicians, I think not maybe not especially, but in this season it's very in the fore. But just that we have expectations that a pattern of behavior and priorities and stuff like that would be enacted, um, and yet we know that people aren't going to be able to do it perfectly, all that sort of stuff, right? And so I just keep on getting like we need to be more loyal to the proper principles of goodness than the people themselves. Not that we shouldn't be caring and loving and loyal to the extent that it's proper, but if there are the principles of righteousness are being abused, it's not like you have an obligation to excuse all of them nor condemn, because that's not our place always. There's elements of it, but
Okay, I have a
it,
really important question.
go for
Did
it.
Kamala Harris actually work at McDonald's or not?
I don't know. It's odd that nobody's come forward with actual pictures or employment proof, but I'm not going to rule it out. I could see records being lost. Maybe her McDonald's burned down after a riot she instigated or something. I don't know.
So if she wanted to, she could file either with the IRS or with Social Security, both of which would let you know if she received a paycheck from McDonald's back then. But she may also be doing the what Barack Obama did, which is
Right. The birth
not,
certificate thing.
hold off on the birth certificate because
Right.
he knew that it was
a
good
trap.
for him. Yeah, it was good for him to have that because it was a talking point. Yeah.
Right. And it was an easy way to attract people and then be able to say, oh, but look at these rubes that believe this. Yada yada yada. Yeah. 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 And there's just so many. That's the tricky thing about even just having conversations. Sometimes you know that there's plenty of snares out there that are, and they're just waiting for you to walk into it. And sometimes it's unavoidable. But que sera, sera. Do the best to be as articulate and truthful and because just speaking plainly it's both an asset and a liability. Um, but I mean that is the one that might be the key disability of goodness is that it is plain and visible. And so if anybody wants to jack with it, they have a roadmap for mimicking goodness and gaining support. And obviously you see that with other things like the whole Tenet media scandal and other things where you have, basically gaining clout by roping in as many influencers on one side of it as you can and then being able to stamp them with Russia or something.
Did you ever listen to Matthew Christensen and Blonde in the Belly of the Beast?
Yes, wasn't my favorite. Like his actual shorts, his prepared things, I think are usually a lot more punchy and to the point. And I mean, no offense to you and people that do, just chatting sort of live streams, but I do tend to prefer having bite-sized morsels of content that have a theme that you can get into. You can.
So you have an
find
actual real life where your time is actually valuable.
Yeah, I mean, not that just chatting isn't, but I mean, there's a lot of just talking sort of things like morning radio. I mean, there's times and places for it, but right now I feel like this is kind of more crunch time where there's a lot of things in a lot of ways, and it would be helpful to be spending it wisely.
Well, did you hear about their little breakup?
Hmm. Yeah, honestly, I didn't think that she was that much of an asset for what he does at all. And, like she strikes me as like on the verge of anti-Semitism, probably maybe a little bit further than that.
Yeah, like the thing is, she's just too stupid to realize how deep she went into anti-Semitic territory. She's just
Yeah.
not that smart. She was pretty, but she's just not that smart.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm not even going to say she's not that smart, but perhaps not, maybe a little too self-confident because of the pretty or just being in her own little bubble or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's one of those things that I just never got into, partially because of like, yes, she was snarky. She had a little bit more spice to her, but the thing that I appreciate Christensen for is I mean, he has a really calm, analytical tone and structure. The way he does due diligence. He brings receipts, and I appreciate that about him. yeah, as a personality,
Yeah,
and I don't know.
I just couldn't stand her. That's why I stopped listening.
Oh yeah, no, I rarely. There's a couple times I'm like, maybe it'll be good because I like his stuff so much, but it's just there's a lot of stuff to wade through, and maybe if you don't have nothing else to do, but I will say the one thing that was a plus would be that because he was dialoguing with her, it did highlight the contrast between that kind of more, you know, steering off the far side on the right a little bit with somebody that's actually just principled, conservative, constitutional sort of, you know,
Intelligent.
right. That does, yeah. there's 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 much dumb to overcome. Yeah. I'm trying to absorb as much intelligence as possible. Maybe some of it will stick.
I've been listening a lot to Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not conservative at all, but
No.
they're actually like I really like their commentary. Did you
Well,
did you hear Matt Taibbi's speech at the rally?
I think I caught a clip of it. I don't know if I heard the whole thing.
It's worthwhile actually listening to the entire thing.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. That was the Save America or something the Weinstein thing.
Yeah, yeah, the Brett Weinstein thing that whatchamacallit went to.
Well, Peterson, Russell Brand, I think Gabbard,
Yep.
Taibbi, some other people.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, what was it? It was something Save America, I think.
Yeah, something.
Join the rebellion, something. Although, I think who was it, Chris Williamson or whoever was like, you can't build something on Rebel. I can't remember. There's too many. Well, I should say there's too many. This is one of the reasons why principles, I think, I lean towards principles because there's so many personalities across the world that it really it makes sense if you want to hold on to the things that are far-reaching and eternal. You have to go deeper than just the personalities, although you appreciate the personalities a whole lot. Yeah, because there's just too much data. You got to find and that's I guess why the whole pattern conversation is such a huge thing too. Is just that, yeah, that which is underlying, which fleshes out in details, is maybe I don't know if I would call it necessarily the deeper knowledge, but more versatile knowledge. And in a world that's constantly changing, I feel like that's a useful thing to hone in on. Also, I have limitations because I'm not that small.
So Colonymus, in Jewish terms, a non-denominational Christian is like that Yid who goes to whichever shul is closest for minyan and says he doesn't have a minhag and just davens whatever nusach is at the minyan. That's a non-denominational Christian. So next time somebody asks you, Eric, what's a non-denominational Christian, you can go ahead and give them that definition.
Verbatim?
Verbatim.
Okay. I'm going to have to work on my thing. I might have to repeat it once or twice. My memories, I wasn't steeped in, memorizing. Well, I shouldn't say that. I was, yeah. Unfortunately, I'm a child of modern life, which means my attention span and memorization skills have given way to have it on a device, which is not great, but, I basically try to put it all in a zip file with the principle and concept things. So for those of you that don't know what zip files are.
A zip file. Yeah. I remember FTPing zip files.
Oh my goodness. I mean, if you're a real rebel, you'd be roaring, but you know.
Hey, I used to be on BBSs. I mean, if
Oh,
you remember BBSs,
oh, I do. Those
yeah,
were wild times.
those were wild times.
I mean,
Back
it
when
was pretty
we were
cool.
young.
Yeah. I mean, those. I mean, those. Yeah. Well, I mean, or older than that, of course, all the IRC chats and the.
I
Oh my
actually
goodness.
got into IRC like 15 years ago because
Really?
because the Magic the Gathering community was still really
Mm,
active on IRC.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Especially
it's
the Magic judges.
okay.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if those, like, especially the BBSs and stuff like that. I'd be surprised if there's not still a bunch of sub communities that are just using that as like a back channel, like a modern day ham radio thing.
Oh yeah. I mean my high school friends still use I jumped off the listserv, but
Hmm.
I mean and Paul Vanderklay is still using a listserv.
Yeah. Well, it
There are
doesn't
people
surprise me.
still using listservs.
Oh yeah. I mean, if it's not broken, don't fix it, and then eventually all the young whippersnappers that are annoying you get bored and move on. So you know you get a return to a semblance of normality.
What's really funny for me is the fact that group chats have become a thing
Hmm.
because it's so like it's so retro. A
Yeah.
group chat, I mean, it's basically going all the way back to uh like chats, you know?
Yeah. No, and before that, party lines, but that's a whole
Yeah,
different game.
yeah,
Um, yeah. I mean, history rhymes, repeats and rhymes.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's, I don't know. How do we get on that? Oh, yeah, the memorization and whatever else. WinZips. Anyway, do you remember they used to have the zip drives? The giant, chunky, yeah.
So um somebody pointed out that the save icon in some places is still a 3.5 inch floppy, and like,
Yeah,
who's seen a 3.5 inch floppy? But I remember when I had a 5.25 inch floppy.
right. Those were actually floppy. Back in my
Those,
day,
yeah,
floppy disks were actually floppy.
yeah, yeah. In my day, floppy disks were floppy. I heard the funniest thing that stuck with me.
Hmm.
Somebody said their kid asked them, why does it say hang up the phone?
Hmm.
It's like, yeah,
Hmm.
how, like,
Hmm.
or I mean, remember rotary phones?
Oh, yeah.
I one of my best friends, I guess it doesn't matter anymore that if I say his, I remember his phone number because I used to call it all the time. It was
Hmm.
993-0070, right?
Okay.
And on a rotary phone, that was annoying. 993-0070. Do you know how annoying it is to dial that number?
So anyway, that friendship had to end. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the whole thing. This whole thing. People will never understand the pain. They won't. I don't know. But you know, or just having, like I think I still have some telephone cords stashed. Haven't had to use them decades at this point. But I mean, you never know. Might need a phone cord for reasons. Who knows?
Yeah,
Uh,
my dad actually like he so there's phone cord all over this place because my dad like ran a line back when people still had lines.
Yeah. But he didn't do it through the walls or anything, just like straight up
No,
on.
through the walls were Jewish, Eric.
I'm not sure what that means.
That means when I need a light bulb changed, I have to call a handyman.
Oh, oh, it's the professional deference thing. Gotcha.
It's the more I couldn't I can do basically nothing with my hands.
That's unfortunate. You know what? I feel like I had a while ago. I was on one of these with Chizi, and he was saying he was trying to convince me. They actually need a lot of handymen in Israel.
So I have said this so many times. You want to get rich?
Yeah, I mean not that much, but whatever.
Go be a handyman in an Orthodox Jewish community. You will make so much money.
Okay.
Okay. Because nobody knows how to do anything.
That's crazy talk. Is it all dedicated to memorization? Like, what's going on?
I think somebody's actually. I have seen people who have started parsing out. So you know how Jews supposedly have higher IQs? It's not in spatial manipulation. It's like spatial manipulation IQ, not that great.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I guess if it's all in the theoretical spiritual realm, maybe
verbal math,
yeah.
that stuff. But turning a screw, are you kidding me? Using a screwdriver, how do you do that?
I mean, it's difficult. So you got to get the right size. You can strip it if you get not enough pressure, too much pressure. It's a whole thing, whole bunch of things stacked on top of one another.
Yeah.
But okay, well, yeah. Making life notes right now. I'm just wasting away in front of your computer every day. So, I'll have to try the handyman thing. Do you know of any good Orthodox communities? Oh wait, hold on. Somebody's saying something.
In Texas?
Yeah.
Actually, Rabbi Mullet isn't that far away from you, but in Texas, it's a lot easier than in Chicago, New York, and even Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, you can, but in New York, as I understand it, and frankly, I mean, in Israel, there's a reason why Israel constantly is giving, why Chazi is hiring all these Muslim Arabs to build everything for him.
There are a few definitions for that. It means to turn, to get deep, and hold tight. Anyway, and sometimes means to completely take advantage of. Anyway, I was gonna say I was trying to think of a couple of communities. So one, well, I mean, for a while there was Kinky Friedman, who's Jewish, who was running for governor, and then there've been a few other folks that I've gone to church with actually that, but they weren't Orthodox, obviously, because they were in church. So.
Yeah, I make all kinds of jokes about my friend whose dad, his mom was Jewish and his dad is Catholic, and he owns tools and he does normal things, and it's every time he shows me how to I don't know, change a light bulb, I'm like, and this is how we know your dad was not Jewish.
Well, so this might be a little crazy, but we were actually going through the book of Numbers not that long ago at the place I'm at now, and one of the things that was talked about was basically the division of jobs basically throughout the tribes during the desert wanderings and whatnot, and just the very specific tasks that various folks, the positioning and tasks. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was some tie-in from all the way back then. I mean,
it
just
could be, but it could also, I mean, over the past 1,000 years when Jews were like prohibited from doing manual labor, like buildings, like any of the trades, any of the guilds, like, like microevolution is a thing, even if you don't believe in macroevolution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's, and well, yeah, there's a lot of different, and anyway, my mind's going all over the place, and excuse me, it's late.
It is. It's almost midnight, and you're in Texas time.
Yeah, I'm in trouble.
You should probably go to bed. I should probably go to bed.
Yeah. But I actually had a minute, and you were sitting there all exactly like this, except not talking. And I was like, well, somebody's got to talk to this guy.
Well, that's how I reel people in.
Sneaky.
Yeah. Like if I were to sit here and talk, like the same number of people would listen, but like nobody would jump in. So
yeah. Well, I mean, because it's one of those things that makes sense, because people are trying to be polite, and you're like, oh, he has a thought. He's trying to get this. There's something going on there. So we'll let him talk, and then. I mean, I will say that, especially when you're doing your deeper dives and studies and stuff like that, half the time I usually have stuff let's just say life is nonstop for me right now. It doesn't matter if it's at work or at home. There's just always, or all the extracurriculars that I haven't gotten to because I'm exhausted and old. But,
life happens.
It does at a rapid pace, and yeah, anyway. But yeah, no, it's one of those things that there is such a deep knowledge and amount of reference and familiarity that participation is not always super easy, which it doesn't have to be. It's interesting to listen in on when you get the chance, but yeah, it won't. Participation doesn't necessarily show up in full-on interaction. So, you do what you do, and it has the effect it has. So anyway, but did you have any other thoughts? No.
I think I'm just gonna end this stream. Should I end it with my normal goodbye or without my normal goodbye? What do you think?
I think you got to do what you got to do.
Do you know my normal goodbye?
It might ring as familiar when you do it, but I can't. It's not coming to mind for me right now.
Here we go. I'm going to use host's prerogative to put the Reverend Parcells to bed because he does need to get up in the morning.
Sorry, Reverend. Thank you.
But before he goes, I have a question. Let's say, God forbid, that I were to burn somebody at the stake for not being a Trinitarian. And I did not repent of that. Is that a salvation issue?
Sometimes Jacob takes that devil's advocate thing too far.
There a proverb that says something like, don't answer a fool according to his folly.
But there's a proverb that says, answer a fool according to his folly.
There is. Exactly right. And I'm going to leave it to you guys to determine, which of those was applicable in this situation as I go. So, but anyhow, good.
Thank you, Reverend.
Good to
Thank
chat
you.
with you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah. The